Welcome back, guys, or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2025 Ford F-150. But more specifically, this is the STX trim level, which is more of a budget-friendly trim level of the F-150, and it's in a color that Ford likes to call Oxford White, which whether it's in the sunshine or the shade, I actually think it looks pretty good and really meets this trim level quite well. But while the F-150 is still the best-selling truck in the world, it's not perfect. So today, I'm going to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Ford F-150 STX to help you guys at home decide if this might be the right vehicle for you, or if you should leave it at the lot. So today, you can expect to see a walk-around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts in this quick but honest full review. And huge thanks to Goody Motor Ford for letting me borrow this one for the day. I'll link them below if you're interested because they sell below MSRP, they'll ship anywhere in the country, and with that said, let's dive right into this review. And thank you so much for watching car videos on YouTube today. But if you get anything out of this video, you like my video style, or you like the F-150, please be so kind to consider liking this video. Basically, that lets me know to make more stuff like this. It helps the video get shared, but it'll also help you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff like this. Thank you so much. But if you're new to Ford, or the Ford F-150, there's a few things that you should probably know. Ford is an all-American automaker. They are founded by Henry Ford in Detroit, Michigan in the year 1903, but it wasn't until the late 1940s that the F-Series of pickup truck finally came out. Unfortunately, that was 1 year after Henry Ford passed away, so he never got to see these roll off the assembly line. And in that time, there's been a lot of F-Series trucks, but today our focus is on the half-ton. The F-150, there have been 14 generations of F-150, with the 14th generation starting just a few years ago in 2021. Although these did have a refresh last year for 2024, really not a whole lot has changed. It's really been an evolutionary platform where a lot of things have just progressively changed, progressively improved, and there's really a lot of different ways to have your F-150. There's currently 8 trim levels. They start at the lowest two-wheel drive regular cab at about $37,000, but if you want the second lowest trim level, the STX like this, that starts at about $44,000. Add on almost $4,000 for all-wheel drive. You could option it with the V8 5-liter if you want, but this one has the Twin Turbo 2.7, and you're looking at about a $51,000 truck the way this one sits with all of its options, after destination, after delivery. 51 grand ain't cheap, and it is in the 40s after the Goody Ford discount. But for almost $50,000, what do you get? You actually get a truck that is not only a 5-star crash test rated vehicle, but it's even scored the top safety pick rating, which is really uncommon for body-on-frame vehicles, especially body-on-frame trucks, because they just usually don't crumple like a lot of the unibody counterparts. So this has a bunch of safety features as standard, such as really bright LED headlights, blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise, and usually you can find a lot of parking sensors and safety sensors on these vehicles too. But beyond all that, you still get a Super Crew cab, 5.5-foot bed that is really functional, very useful. This vehicle even has the Twin Turbo Ecoboost engine, the 2.7, so it makes 400 pound-feet of torque. It's actually surprisingly quick for a full-size pickup truck, and it has a lot of ground clearance. Good tires, good wheels, and a lot of nice creature comforts inside, in addition to the fact that this is just a very well-balanced, very refined truck for what it is, especially for being a lower trim level. But because this is a full-size truck, it's not small, it takes up the entirety of an average-sized parking space. So keep it in mind, it might not fit in your garage, it might not even fit in your driveway, it just really depends on the setup, because overall, this vehicle is about 19.3 feet long. The wheelbase, though, is 12 feet, so it's very planted and stable on the road, especially due to the fact that this is about 6 1/3 feet wide, around 6 feet tall, and then depending on your configuration, your powertrain, all the options that it has, the F-150 weighs anywhere from 4,000 pounds to just shy of 6,000 pounds. This one even has a payload capacity of about 1,600 pounds, which is on the higher end for a regular F-150. And then again, depending on how it's spec'd, they can tow up to about 13,500 pounds. So they're quite capable while having about 8.4 to 9.3 inches of ground clearance for most of the configurations. If it is a Raptor, you have about a foot of ground clearance. And then this has a 355 final drive ratio, and it can do a full circle in about 47 feet. And then the last couple things to mention here is the gas door is located on the driver's side. It's a 36-gallon tank, so it's huge. You're probably not very often going to have to access that thing. But unfortunately, when you lock the vehicle, the gas door doesn't lock. So you might have the bums trying to siphon some of your fuel. The way that this EcoBoost is spec'd, it's rated for about 18 city, 23 on the highway. So if you drive conservatively with a soft foot at highway speeds, you could get up to 800 miles of range, which is absolutely fantastic for a mid-sized truck. And then it has a square stance all around with a Dynapro AT2 tire. It has about 10-30 seconds of tread, and it's a 275 60/20 tire size. Unfortunately, though, you don't have, well, wheel well liners in the back, so you can always do those aftermarket if you want. But dang, does the frame and the gas tank look good. And then this one, being the STX, has the switchblade key with unlock, lock, and panic button. So you are going to have to push some buttons. You can't just leave that in your pocket because you don't have proximity key features on this non-painted door handle. The driver's side door panels open up really big. And speaking of big, check out those windows. The F-150 seriously has better visibility than a school bus. That thing is absolutely absurd. I love how you still have the old school lock and unlock right there if you want to access that. And then most of the materials, they are a little bit on the cheaper end. Not necessarily that they're going to go bad, but they're not as nice as some of the higher trim levels. But you at least have this leather-wrapped armrest, which feels nice. You have the cool handle, locks, your adjustments for the mirrors, your windows, everything you need. You have the speaker, upper tray, lower tray, full length, which is really good. You have a lot of storage in this vehicle. There's nothing on the door sill, and honestly, with how high up this truck is off the ground, you might want to consider running boards, especially if you're on the shorter side of things. But you do have a carpet mat down here. You have rubberized pedals. Do we have a dead pedal? Yes, it is rubber lined. You have the hood release. I don't see it listed for a knee airbag. I'm kind of surprised for this being a top safety pick if it doesn't have one. You have the OBD2 port. You have the electronic parking brake. Some options right there for lighting, for auto start stop. You have your turn signal and your wiper control right there, ventilation, A-pillar handle, just kind of a plastic polymer synthetic steering wheel. And then you have a really comfortable cloth seat. This is not a 3-seat row up front. You just have the 2 individual seats and then the center console, and there's no sunroof or anything either on this STX trim level. But sitting inside the F-150, even being a lower trim level, it still feels really nice. Visibility is just absolutely amazing. Good visibility down the hood. Anywhere you look, there's just a lot of glass. And even though it's all black for the interior, you still get a lot of natural light, especially if the windows aren't tinted like this factory spec one. But when we fire it up, you even have 2 huge digital displays. Built Ford Tough appears, the horn. It's actually loud, it sounds really good. We are almost out of gas, so we do have to be careful to not leave it on for too long. But the AC blows cold. You can go through the different options, and here we're not going to go through a lot of that. It's mostly the basics. You have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and if you have a higher trim level, you have navigation, you have a few of those features. You also have some storage above it. Just don't leave any candy up here. It's going to melt in the sun, especially on a 91-degree day like today. But you have physical controls, traction control, hazard, the camera. You can actually have that on while you're driving. It is the coolest thing. You have some storage for your pennies right here. 2 high, 4 low. I do wish it had 4-wheel drive auto, but this one does not. And then you have your controls, leaving in sport mode. It's pretty fun, but honestly, you're probably not going to use that a whole lot of the time. You have a ton of storage here. You even have a lower storage compartment that's almost kind of hidden. And then a huge center console with a lifty tray that can also slide, and more storage than you probably know what to do with. You can even store some sunglasses up here. You have an LED light there, but unfortunately, just like the base model, the XL, you don't have anything for the vanity mirror, unfortunately. With that said, let's turn it off and we'll hop in the back. I know that the F-150 does look like a pretty big truck, and the cabin looks pretty substantial, but you don't really notice how large it actually is until you actually hop inside. Thankfully, the door panels, they open up really wide, almost 90 degrees, so you should easily be able to get pets and child safety seats and anything else you need to in here. You even have a B-pillar handle, which I love. The seats can be raised with this little strap, and they go up pretty well, pretty easily, giving you more storage down below. You even have vents back here on this base model, or lower trim level, nearly the base model. And look at how much room I have in front of my knees. Almost a foot in front of them. I have cup holders, vents, I have a few plugins down there, but I don't have a center armrest or anything like that. Although I do have LED lights, I can hang some clothes from there. And seriously, just look at how small the Moroni sticker even looks compared to the overall size of the window. You can easily see what's in your bed and what's going on back there. And even from the back of this, you really have a nice view of the front. Even you can see what's going on up front pretty well, and I just can't believe how spacious this is. At 5'11", I have about that much room above my hat, and that's pretty impressive for a second row of any vehicle. With that said, let's hop out and I'll show you the bed. I think the back of the F-150 looks really good. I love that there's only the Ford emblem and then F-150 stamped into the tailgate. There's no extra badges, no extra stickers, nothing like that. It just looks really clean, although I personally would get some black vinyl stickers to inlay for the F-150. Anyways, it's also neat that when you lock the vehicle, the tailgate is locked, so no one's going to be stealing your tailgate. Hopefully that's no longer a thing. And when you unlock the vehicle, unfortunately this one is not dampened. so it does drop pretty hard. So keep in mind, I do physical therapy as my day job. I've literally worked with a patient who is knocked down and broken bones because the tailgate dropped on them so hard. So please be careful with that. Otherwise, it does not have a spray and bed liner. That's probably going to be another $400 to $600 option. You do have some storage cubbies down below. You have tie downs at every corner. And overall, it's about 21 inches tall, 60 inches wide, and this is about a 5.5 foot bed. You can also get a 6.5 foot bed on this configuration. So overall, you have over 52 cubic feet of cargo capacity before you even start to topple over the top of the bed sides, and that's pretty cool. Otherwise, it does take a little bit of strength to lift the tailgate, but honestly, it's not too bad. The passenger side of the F-150 is pretty neat. Again, you have the visibility cutout, you have the blind spot monitoring on the side mirror, and the vehicle door is locked, and because we don't have the proximity key features, I am going to have to reach into my pocket and unlock it right here, which is not a big deal. Although for $50,000, it would be nice if that was included. Keep in mind, these door panels open up really big. Be careful not to ding the car next to you. You have basically the same layout, minus a few of the controls, so you get some extra storage there instead, which is neat. None of these seats are powered, though, on the STX. My backpack doesn't seem to mind, though, although heated and ventilated seats would be fun. You're going to have to spend a lot more to get those. And then you have some transmission tunnel storage right there. You have above the glove box storage with F-150 stamped in, and then a locking glove box. So there really is a lot of storage potential on the F-150, and I just love how Ford has designed this interior. Anyways, guys, let's come around to the front. I'll pop the hood, and I'll show you the Twin Turbo Ecoboost engine. Under the hood is a 2.7-liter overhead camshaft design Twin Turbo Ecoboost engine. Unfortunately, though, from my height, you can only see one turbo on the passenger exhaust bank down there. But this is a pretty cool layout. It makes 400 torque at 3,500 RPM, 325 horsepower at 5,500 RPM. So you do have to rev it out a little bit more than some smaller displacement turbo engines or single turbo displacement engines. But this is still pretty nice. You have the battery up front, all of your reservoirs, a lot of the accessories on the periphery, the fuse boxes, the air intake, and then it splits to each of the exhaust banks for the turbos. On top, you can see the throttle body, you can see the oil dipstick. You actually have a lot of access to the heads of this vehicle and the valve covers up top, although it does start to get a little bit tight the further down you go. You can see the steering shaft right there. And honestly, this 2.7-liter engine has a lot more room to work on it in the F-150 than it does the Ford Ranger. So this is pretty cool, and honestly, it seems like these are very reliable engines. You can see the serpentine belt, the alternator, all of that stuff up front. And it is really neat that Ford offers so many options for their F-150. Not only is there 8 different trim levels, but there's a bunch of engines between naturally aspirated, turbo, hybrid, and full electric. So the F-150 really gives you a lot of options. But I'm excited to take this 2.7-liter twin turbo engine on the road and see how it drives. Initial driving impressions of the 2.7-liter twin turbo EcoBoost F-150. Right now, traction is off, sport mode is on. I'm just gonna give it full throttle and see what happens. All right, so you didn't really feel the torque kick in until almost 4,000 RPM, but then this thing pulls pretty good, and in sport mode, it seems like it has not really rev hang, but it is holding out the gears just a little bit longer than you would in any of the other 6 or so modes. Corners really well. From a roll, this engine really does pull pretty good. You don't feel it a lot because the vehicle is big. You are high off the ground. There's a lot between you and the ground, so you really don't feel it as well as you would if you were in a lowered truck. But it handles well, it avoids that sprinkler no problem. There certainly is some decent body roll, and the stronger you turn the wheel, if you are cruising mostly straight, the more you are gonna feel it start to kick in, and the less it seems to be compensated for by the suspension, because physics are real, and physics are gonna kick in. But anyways, visibility of this vehicle is really good. I love the cutout that Ford has been doing for well over a decade now. I love how big the side mirrors are for not even being towing mirrors. You really have a lot that you can look through. You have the big beefy 8-pillar handle. You can see right through the center of the cabin, and even if you just turn your head, you overall have pretty good visibility for this being a full-size truck. And just driving, if we have to do, you know, a little bit of a brake check coming up to the stop sign up ahead, maybe at half brake pedal, let's see what happens. Ooh, yeah, there is some nose dive, that's for sure. The brakes did kick in right away. They didn't grip like they were, you know, like a performance car, like really strictly and stiff. It was more just gradual. The more you push the pedal, the more the brake you feel. And coming up to speed, I don't really hear any turbo spool, but it just feels like a really powerful engine. And for 2.7 liters of displacement, having 400 pound-feet of torque, for most people, this is going to be reasonable, especially if you can get 20 miles per gallon. You really don't have a lot to complain about. And for being a modern pickup truck, which I know it does cost almost $50,000, it does seem to be insulated really well. The speakers are okay. They're certainly not an upgraded system, so you could pay more for nicer speakers or go aftermarket if you want. But these seats are pretty comfortable. As someone who's 5'11", I have a ton of headroom, pretty good bolstering. I can move side to side just a little bit. You're going to be reminded that this is not built for cornering, and the suspension, the chassis, the whole vehicle is going to remind you of that, not just the seats having a little bit of slackness or looseness to them for my size of build. But overall, this is a really nice layout, and I love everything that Ford has done to really make the cockpit of this vehicle feel very inviting, very functional, very useful. Anyways, guys, let's get to the private road and we'll see what this thing can do 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the F-150 with the 2.7 liter Twin Turbo Ecoboost. Keep in mind though, density altitude is over 7,000 feet, so even though this is twin turboed, it still could be down in power, maybe 10% or so. We're in 4 high, we're gonna do a brake rev, sport mode is on, traction control is off, and let's see what this thing can do. Spool it up. Oh yeah. Not bad. True 0 to 60 came in at 7.31 seconds on this 90-degree day. My final thoughts of the 2025 Ford F-150, but specifically the STX with the 2.7 liter twin turbo engine. So honestly, it does feel like a really good truck. Trucks ride better and better every single year as more effort is put onto the interior, more effort put into the suspension. They're no longer just a workhorse, although maybe you should consider a full-size truck if you do need it for work and not just as a daily driver, especially if you live in a city, you do a lot of commuting around town. This is a big vehicle. It can do all the things you need it to do, but it feels more at home on the highway. It feels more at home probably when you're towing and hauling stuff, not just daily driving it, because it is a big vehicle. You don't have the best visibility close to the vehicle, what you need around town and in the city, especially in parking lots. But out on the highway, out in the country where I am, you can see really far down the road from the height that you have. You can really get up to speed quite easily, merge, pass, semis and tractors and slow moving vehicles. Having a bunch of ground clearance really helps as well. And having 1,600 pounds of payload means that this vehicle is up for almost any task or any challenge. But anyways, they're not cheap. This, even after the Goody Ford discount, is still over $45,000. I mean, maybe if you reference my video, they'll knock it down even lower. But trucks are expensive. But the F-150, I'm honestly not surprised why this is the best-selling one. It feels very refined. It feels like a good vehicle. And there's really not a lot of ways that you could reasonably make it better, at least for the majority of people. I think Ford knocked it out of the park with this one. Personally, I would maybe stick to the black 18-inch wheels rather than these larger 20-inch wheels. But overall, this feels like a very good, very substantial truck, and I highly recommend you guys test drive one for yourself if you are in the market for a full size. Anyways, guys, please share your thoughts. Please share your opinions below. I'd love to hear them and collaborate and comment with you guys down below. Like this video if you got anything out of it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the Goody Motor Ford group. They are awesome and fun people to work with. With that said, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care, and until next time, see ya.